I trained warriors for 23 cycles, but nothing prepared me for the night I saw a human moving freely inside a 5-gravity death chamber. I have been training combat specialists for the Valorian Defense Corps for 23 cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Every species, every body type, every level of preparedness or lack thereof. My name is Corinth, and I am what you might call, well, good at my job. Very good, actually. I have turned soft-winged Pelarians into functional strike team members. I have taught Krogoth heavy infantry how to move with precision instead of just smashing through walls like drunken cargo haulers. I have standards people. High ones. So when Commander Velroth told me we were getting a human as part of the new interspecies military exchange program, I may have laughed. Out loud, in his face. Not my finest moment professionally, but come on, a human, on a combat station. That is like assigning a decorative pond fish to submarine duty. Everyone knows humans are fragile. Soft. Their homeworld got approved for Galactic Council membership precisely because they seemed harmless enough. Sure, they have some interesting technology, decent enough diplomatic skills, but combat, please, they break bones from minor falls. Their skin tears easily. They need constant hydration. They overheat. They get cold. They need specific atmospheric conditions or they just, die. They are basically held together by optimism and prayer. The day Lieutenant Jade Harkin arrived, I was standing in Docking Bay 3 with what I will admit was not an open mind. The transport shuttle landed with the standard hiss of equalizing pressure, and I waited, arms crossed, all 4 of them, because that is how we Valorians show we are serious and unimpressed. Mostly unimpressed. The hatch opened, and out stepped, well, exactly what I expected. She was small. I mean really small. Maybe 5.5 feet tall, which put her at chest height to me, and I am not even considered particularly large by Valorian standards. She had pale skin that looked like it had never seen real sun, which tracks for a species that apparently burns under ultraviolet light like unshielded circuitry. Her hair was dark, tied back in some sort of functional knot, and her uniform was crisp, but honestly it looked almost ceremonial. Too clean, too neat, like she had never actually rolled in the dirt during field exercises. Her eyes, though, I will give her this. Her eyes were sharp, dark brown, constantly moving, taking in every detail of the docking bay. That was something at least. Awareness is half of survival, even if your body is made of tissue paper and wishful thinking. She approached me with her single duffel bag, yes, one bag, like she was here for a vacation instead of a 6-month rotation, and stopped at a respectful distance. Then she did that thing humans do, that bizarre gesture where they extend one hand forward like offering a weapon but without the weapon. A handshake they call it. Lieutenant Jade Harkin reporting for duty, sir, she said. Her voice was steady, professional, with that weird accent humans have where every word sounds slightly clipped. I looked down at her extended hand, then at her face, then back at her hand. Protocol said I should return the gesture, cultural exchange and all that. So I reached down with one of my lower arms and grasped her hand gently, because seriously, I did not want to be responsible for breaking our delicate little human on her first day. Her grip was firm though, surprisingly firm. Not strong obviously, but more confident than I expected. Instructor Corinth, I replied, releasing her hand before I accidentally crushed it. Welcome to Station Therexis Prime. I will be overseeing your training integration. She smiled, actually smiled, like this was a pleasant social call. Looking forward to it, sir. Looking forward to it. Right. This was going to be a long 6 months. The orientation tour started in the main corridor, where I began my standard speech, the one I had given approximately 400 times, but this time with extra emphasis on the parts about not dying. Station Tharexis Prime operates on variable gravity zones, I explained, walking slowly so she could keep up with her tiny human legs. Standard zones are kept at 1.2 times galactic standard, which should be manageable for you barely, but we have training areas that go much higher. Section 5 is 2 times standard. Section 8 is 3 times. Training Bay 7, well, that is 5 times standard, and is absolutely off limits to you. Do you understand? Off limits. We have lost recruits in there. Big recruits, strong recruits, not your body type. Jade nodded, making notes on her datapad. Understood, sir. Off limits. The equipment lockers are coded by species clearance, I continued, gesturing to a reinforced door. Your code will only open lockers with gear rated for low-density species. Do not, And I cannot stress this enough. Do not attempt to use Krogoth battle armor or Valorian shock batons. They will either crush you or electrocute you. And filling out those incident reports is a nightmare. Noted, sir. Dietary restrictions. The station commissary has a human-safe section, marked with blue signage. Everything else may contain proteins, minerals, or compounds that are toxic to your biology. Threxus, our combat specialist, once saw a human visitor try Pelarian spice nuts and the poor creature swelled up like a gas-filled balloon. Not pretty. For the first time, Jade looked up from her datapad. Was the human okay? Eventually, after medical intervention, just stick to the blue section. We turned a corner and nearly walked into Threxus himself. All 7 feet of scaled muscle and bad attitude. He is a draken, which means he is essentially a bipedal crocodile who learned how to use plasma weapons and never stopped being smug about it. Corinth, he growled, then his yellow eyes fixed on Jade. Is this the human? Lieutenant Jade Harkin, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Jade, this is combat specialist Threxus. Threxus looked her up and down, then made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a hiss. This is what Earth sends. I have seen cargo drones with more intimidating presence. Jade just smiled politely. Pleasure to meet you, specialist. How long do you think she lasts? Threxus asked me, not even bothering to lower his voice. I give her 2 weeks before she requests medical transfer. Maybe 3 if she is stubborn. That is inappropriate, I said, but honestly I was thinking the same thing. Threxus snorted and walked past us, his tail nearly knocking Jade over. She stepped aside smoothly, still calm, still composed. Either she had incredible patience, or she genuinely did not understand she was being insulted. Hard to tell with humans. We continued to the command center where Commander Velroth was waiting. He is Valorian like me, but older, scarred, with the kind of presence that makes junior officers stand straighter. He looked at Jade with what I would call clinical interest, like examining a specimen. Lieutenant Harkin, he said, his voice deep and formal. Welcome to Threxus Prime. I trust Instructor Corinth has explained the, shall we say, unique challenges you will face here. He has been very thorough, Commander, Jade replied. Good. I will be frank with you, Lieutenant. This exchange program is political, not practical. No one expects you to complete the full rotation. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, and you will, just submit a transfer request. No shame in recognizing your limitations. There it was. The polite version of you do not belong here. Jade met his eyes without flinching. I appreciate the concern, Commander, but I intend to complete my full rotation. Velroth exchanged a glance with me. The kind of glance that said this one has spirit at least, even if her body cannot back it up. As we left the command center, I caught sight of a group of recruits near the training wing entrance. Valorian, Draken, 2 Krogoth. They were watching Jade, whispering, laughing. I heard fragments of conversation, betting pools. Over/under on how many days until she quits, whether she would even survive basic conditioning. Jade heard it too. I know she did, because her jaw tightened just slightly, but she said nothing, just kept walking, kept taking notes, kept being professional. I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, her breaking point would not come from physical challenges. It would come from everyone assuming she had already failed. 3 weeks into Jade's rotation, I had started to relax a little. She had not quit, which was surprising. She had not injured herself, which was more surprising. She kept to her designated areas, followed protocols, stayed quiet during group training sessions. Basically, she was doing exactly what I expected, staying in her lane, not making waves, surviving but not thriving. Night cycle patrol is usually boring. I walk the corridors, check the training bays, make sure no idiot recruits are trying to show off after hours. Standard stuff. But that night as I passed through Section 8, my datapad lit up with an alert. Training Bay 7. Unauthorized access. Environmental systems active. My blood went cold. Bay 7 is not just off limits to humans. It is dangerous for most species. 5 times galactic standard gravity. We use it for elite conditioning, and even then, only in short bursts with full medical teams on standby. If someone had stumbled in there by accident, if the gravity plating had malfunctioned, and trapped someone inside, well, that would be a very bad situation. I ran, all forearms pumping, my boots hammering against the deck plating. The bay entrance was sealed but active, red light indicating full environmental load. I overrode the lock with my instructor codes and hit the exterior panel, ready to drag out whoever was dying in there. The door slid open, and I stopped. Just stopped. Frozen. Because what I was seeing did not make sense. Jade was in there. Alone. Moving. Not crawling. Not struggling. Moving. She was running a full combat drill sequence. Footwork patterns, strike combinations rolling, pivoting, jumping. Her movements were fluid, controlled, fast. She was wearing a light training suit, her hair still tied back, and she was not just surviving the 5 times gravity environment. She was thriving in it. I stood there in the doorway, my brain trying to process what my eyes were telling me. 5 times gravity. That is the equivalent of having 4 copies of yourself stacked on top of you. Every step should feel like dragging a cargo sled. Every breath should be a struggle. Your own body weight becomes a crushing burden. She executed a spinning kick, landed, transitioned into a ground drill, pushed herself up, all of it smooth, natural, like she was training in normal conditions. Then she saw me. She stopped mid-motion, breathing hard but not collapsing, and straightened up. "Oh, evening instructor. Sorry. I know it is late. I could not sleep. Figured I would get some extra training in." I just stared at her. My mouth opened, closed, opened again. You are in Bay 7. Yes, sir. Bay 7. 5 times standard gravity. Yes, sir. The bay that is off limits to you. She had the decency to look slightly apologetic. About that. I meant to ask for clearance, but I did not want to bother anyone. And honestly, I needed something more challenging than the standard zones. Those felt, well, too light. Too light. She just said 5 times. Galactic standard gravity felt too light. I walked into the bay, and immediately felt the weight slam down on me. My knees bent automatically. My breathing shifted to short, controlled bursts. I am Valorian. I am built for this. And it still feels like carrying a full combat load uphill. How long have you been in here? She checked her wrist display. About 40 minutes. I was planning on another 20, then cool down. 40 minutes. 40 minutes. How? I managed to ask, because my vocabulary had apparently shrunk to single words. Jade wiped sweat from her forehead. Earth is a high-gravity world, sir. Our standard gravity is about 0.98 times what you call galactic standard, but our training protocols, especially for military, we train heavy. Most combat soldiers train at 1.5 times Earth normal. Special operations go higher. I usually train at 2 times Earth gravity, which is, let me calculate, roughly 1.96 times galactic standard. My brain was trying to catch up. So this 5 times standard, this is what to you? About 2.5 times Earth gravity. So yeah, heavier than my normal routine, but not by much. Good workout though. Really feel it in the legs. She smiled. Actually smiled. Like she had just finished a pleasant jog instead of what should have been a crushing ordeal. Wait, your planet, Earth. You are telling me your entire species evolved on a high-gravity Deathworld? Deathworld. She looked confused. I mean, we just call it Earth, but I guess compared to most council worlds, yeah. Higher gravity, extreme temperature ranges, aggressive wildlife, tectonically active, frequent storms. The council classification did list us as Category 4 hazard environment, if that is what you mean. Category 4. Category 4. That is the same rating as the Krogoth homeworld. Those beings are 8 feet tall and made of solid muscle. But you're so small, I said, and immediately regretted how it sounded. Jade laughed. Actually laughed. Small does not mean weak, sir. We evolved under high gravity. Our bone density is roughly 3 times what most council species have. Our muscle fiber composition is designed for sustained load bearing. Our cardiovascular system is built to push oxygenated blood through our bodies under constant high pressure. We are compact because we had to be. Efficient. Dense. She walked toward me, moving easily through the crushing gravity, and I realized I was wrong. So completely, fundamentally wrong. She was not fragile. She had never been fragile. We had been looking at a high-gravity predator and calling it delicate because it came in a small package. So about that clearance, Jade said, still catching her breath but looking perfectly comfortable. Would it be possible to get authorized access to Bay 7? Maybe even see if we have anything at 6 or 7 times standard. I would really like to push my limits while I am here. I stared at her. This tiny human, this creature I had been so certain would break. I need to make some calls, I said quietly. She grinned. Thanks, sir. Oh, and maybe do not mention this to Commander Velroth yet. I do not want to make a big deal about it. Too late for that, Lieutenant. Way too late for that. I kept my mouth shut for exactly 12 hours. That is how long my professional discretion lasted before I told one person who told another person who told 3 more people, and by the next morning cycle the entire station knew that the fragile little human had been running combat drills in Bay 7 like it was a recreational park. The reactions ranged from disbelief to outright mockery. "Sensor malfunction," said Lieutenant Cressa, a Valorian tactical officer. "The gravity plating must have been miscalibrated. Or Corinth finally lost it," suggested another recruit. "Too many cycles breathing recycled air." But the worst, predictably, was Thrixus. I found him in the combat wing commons surrounded by a group of recruits, holding court like he always does. He saw me approaching and his reptilian face split into what passes for a grin among Draken. "Corinth," he called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I heard the most amusing story this morning. Something about your pet human performing miracles in high gravity. Tell me, did you also see her walk on water, part the cargo bay doors with her mind?" The surrounding recruits laughed. I felt my back plates bristle with irritation. "I know what I saw, Thrixus. What you saw was probably equipment failure or exhaustion-induced hallucination. Or maybe the human was wearing some sort of mechanical assist suit. There is no possible way a creature that size from a species that weak could function in 5 times gravity. It defies basic physics. Earth is a high-gravity world," I said, keeping my voice level, 1.96 times standard. Thrixus waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Negligible difference. And even if true, training at slightly elevated gravity does not prepare you for 5 times standard. I have trained in Bay 7. It is brutal. I am Draken, bred for combat, and even I find it challenging." "Then perhaps you should see for yourself," said a calm voice from behind me. We all turned. Jade stood there, still in her standard duty uniform, holding a drink container from the commissary. She looked completely relaxed, almost amused. Thrixus's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me. You seem skeptical," Jade said, taking a sip of whatever humans drink. "I do not blame you. It does sound unlikely. So why do we not settle this with a demonstration? You and me, Bay 7, tomorrow during open training hours. We can invite whoever wants to watch." The commons went dead silent. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned to look at this tiny human who had just challenged a Draken combat specialist to essentially a public competition. Thrixus looked like someone had slapped him with a live eel. Confused, insulted, and weirdly fascinated all at once. "You cannot be serious." "Completely serious," Jade said. "Unless you would rather not. I understand if 5 times gravity is too much for you." "Oh, that did it. That absolutely did it." Thrixus drew himself up to his full 7-foot height, scales rippling with indignation. "Too much for me, human. I will go first. I will show you what real strength looks like, and then you can crawl in after me and embarrass yourself in front of the entire station. Tomorrow, 1300 hours. Be there." Jade smiled, looking forward to its specialist. By the next day, it seemed like every off-duty officer and recruit on the station had crammed into the observation gallery overlooking Bay 7. The energy in the room was electric. Betting pools had formed. Arguments broke out. I heard odds being shouted across the crowd. Commander Velroth stood next to me at the control panel, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "This is highly irregular, instructor." "Yes, sir. If the human gets injured, this will reflect poorly on both of us." "Yes, sir. And yet you approved this demonstration." I glanced at him. "Sir, I think we need to see this. All of us." He grunted but did not order me to cancel it. Below, in the staging area outside Bay 7, Thrixus was doing warm-up stretches, drawing out the show. He had an audience now and he was playing to it. Jade stood quietly to the side, doing some simple flexibility exercises, not trying to compete for attention. Thrixus approached the bay entrance and turned to face the observation gallery. "Watch and learn, people. This is how a warrior handles extreme conditions." He stepped through the door. The gravity plating activated and I watched his confident stride immediately falter. His knees bent, his spine compressed, his tail dropped. To his credit, he stayed upright. He started moving, slow, deliberate steps, each one clearly requiring immense effort. He threw a punch. It was slow, telegraphed, nothing like his usual speed. He attempted a kick, barely got his leg up to waist height. His breathing became labored, visible even through the observation window. Sweat began pouring down his scales. 2 minutes. He lasted exactly 2 minutes before he staggered back toward the exit. When he emerged, he was gasping, his legs shaking, but he raised his arms in victory anyway. 2 minutes in 5 times gravity, he announced between breaths. Beat that, human. The crowd actually applauded. Because for most species, surviving 2 minutes in Bay 7 is legitimately impressive. Jade stepped forward, rolled her shoulders once and walked toward the entrance. The entire gallery leaned forward as one. This was the moment. This was where we would find out the truth. Jade stepped through the entrance into Bay 7 and the gravity plating activated with its characteristic hum. I watched her posture, waiting for the telltale signs of strain, the knee bend, the compressed spine, the immediate shift to survival mode that every species shows when hit with 5 times their body weight. Nothing happened. She stood there straight-backed, relaxed, like she had just walked into a standard training room. She took a few experimental steps, bouncing slightly on her feet, testing the environment. Then she looked up at the observation gallery and gave a thumbs up, that weird human gesture that apparently means everything is fine. Is the gravity plating actually active? Someone in the gallery asked. I checked the readouts. 5.02 times standard. Full operational, Jade began. And by began I mean she exploded into motion. She started with a running drill, sprinting from one end of the bay to the other, not jogging, not struggling forward. Sprinting. Her legs pumped, her arms drove, her breathing stayed controlled and rhythmic. When she reached the far wall, she did not stop to rest. She dropped into push-ups, full extension push-ups, her body moving up and down with mechanical precision. 20, 30, 40. This is impossible, Threxus muttered beside me, still catching his breath from his own attempt. She transitioned into a combat sequence. Strike combinations, moving through forms I recognized from standard military training, but executed with a speed and fluidity that should not exist under that gravitational load. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, elbow strike, knee drive, spinning back fist. Every movement crisp, every technique sharp. Then she started adding acrobatics. A cartwheel, a round off, a back handspring, in 5 times gravity. I have seen elite Valorian athletes fail at basic tumbling in Bay 7, and this human was flipping through the air like gravity was a polite suggestion rather than a physical law. The observation gallery had gone completely silent, not the silence of boredom, but the silence of witnesses. The kind of silence that happens when everyone watching realizes they are seeing something that will change their understanding of reality. Jade moved to the weapons rack. She selected a standard-issue training staff, the kind we use for close-quarters combat drills. She spun it experimentally, testing the weight under the increased gravity, then launched into a weapons cat. The staff became a blur. Over her head, behind her back, sweeping low, thrusting high, she incorporated it into her movement, spinning, striking imaginary opponents, transitioning between offensive and defensive postures with absolutely no wasted motion. Her footwork was perfect, her balance was perfect, everything was perfect. How long has she been in there? Commander Velroth asked quietly. I checked the timer. 15 minutes, sir. 15 minutes. Threxus had barely managed 2, and he had done basic movement. Jade was performing advanced combat techniques, and she still had not slowed down. She set down the staff and moved to the resistance training equipment. Pull-ups on the high bar. In 5 times gravity, that means she was lifting not just her body weight, but effectively 5 times her body weight, with each repetition. She knocked out 10. Paused. Did 10 more. Someone check her file, Velroth ordered. Find out what Earth's actual military training protocols are. I want specifics. A junior officer scrambled to comply. Jade had moved on to ground fighting drills now. Rolling, grappling invisible opponents, executing throws and holds, and transitions. Every movement demonstrated complete body control, complete spatial awareness. She was not showing off. This was just training. Normal training for her. The junior officer returned, his face pale. Sir, according to Earth military documentation, standard infantry qualification requires sustained performance at 1.5 times Earth gravity. Special operations candidates train at 2 times Earth gravity or higher. Combat endurance requirements include, it says here, maintaining operational effectiveness for up to 6 hours under elevated gravity conditions.
6 hours. 6 hours.
What else? Velroth demanded. Their bone density is, Commander. Their bone density is listed as 3.2 times galactic standard average. Muscle fiber density 2.8 times average. Cardiovascular efficiency rated at This cannot be right. Rated at 4.1 times average. Sir, according to this, humans are biologically classified as megafauna persistence hunters from a Category 4 hazard world. They are. The report categorizes them as endurance apex predators. Apex predators. We had been treating apex predators like they were decorative pets. Down in Bay 7, Jade checked her wrist display, nodded to herself, and began a cool-down routine. Stretching, controlled breathing, light movement to bring her heart rate down gradually. The timer read 28 minutes. She walked to the exit, stepped through, and the gravity released. She grabbed a towel from the bench, wiped her face, took a drink from her water container. Her breathing was elevated but controlled. She looked tired. Sure, but not destroyed. Not broken. Just worked out. She looked up at the observation gallery at the dozens of faces staring down at her in complete shock and smiled. That was great, she called up. Really good workout. Hey, Instructor Corinth. I have been meaning to ask, do we have any bays rated for 6 or 7 times standard? I would love to really push my limits while I am here. 5 times is good for maintenance, but I want to see what I can actually do, you know? Nobody answered. Nobody could answer. We were all too busy having our entire understanding of human capability completely rewritten. Threxus, to his credit, found his voice first. You train harder than this. Regularly. Well, yeah, Jade said, like it was obvious. I mean, I am here to learn and improve, right? That is the whole point of the exchange program. I want to go back to Earth better than when I left. Better than when she left. She was already operating at a level that exceeded 90% of the combat specialists on this station, and she wanted to get better. I looked at Commander Velroth. He looked at me. We both looked back down at Jade, who was now doing post-workout stretches completely casual, like she had not just shattered every assumption we had about her species. Corinth, Velroth said slowly. How many humans did Earth say they were sending to various stations through this exchange program? I pulled up the file. 50, sir. 50 humans across 20 different military installations. 50, he repeated. 50 of these. And we categorized them as low-threat participants requiring protective protocols. Yes, sir. He was quiet for a long moment. I need to send some communications to several commanders. Immediately. Down below, Jade had finished her cooldown and was heading toward the locker rooms, chatting pleasantly with a stunned-looking Valorian recruit who had worked up the courage to approach her. I stood there, watching her go, and tried to process everything I thought I knew about humans, about strength, about what delicate actually meant. Turns out, we did not know anything at all. The station commons had never been this crowded during off hours. Word had spread, and now it seemed like everyone wanted to be near Jade to hear her speak, to understand how we had gotten everything so catastrophically wrong. She sat at a corner table, still in her training gear, surrounded by a semi-circle of officers and recruits who hung on her every word. I stood at the back with Commander Velroth, listening. So Earth is what we call a high-gravity world. Yeah, Jade was explaining, her hands gesturing as she spoke. But that is just one part of it. Our planet has extreme temperature swings, -40 to +50 Celsius, depending on region and season. We have volatile weather patterns, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanic activity. Our atmosphere has higher oxygen content than most council worlds, which makes fires burn hotter and faster. And our bios, well, everything evolved in competition. Predators, prey, parasites, diseases, survival pressure was constant. So humans adapted, offered Cressa, the Valorian tactical officer who had earlier dismissed my story as sensor malfunction. We did not just adapt, Jade said. We specialized. Our ancestors were persistence hunters. We did not chase prey by being faster or stronger. We chased them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We can regulate our body temperature through sweating, which means we can keep moving when other animals have to stop and cool down. Our cardiovascular system can maintain elevated activity for hours. Some humans run ultramarathons, rates over 100 miles, just for recreation. 100 miles, someone repeated, disbelieving. Some go further. We had one guy run 350 miles without stopping. Took him about 80 hours, but he did it. The crowd murmured. That kind of endurance was unheard of among most species. Even Valorians who pride ourselves on stamina cannot maintain physical output for that duration. And your healing? Asked Threxus, who had been uncharacteristically quiet. I have heard rumors. Jade nodded. Our regenerative capability is pretty robust. Broken bones heal in weeks. Soft tissue damage repairs itself constantly. Our immune system fights off infections that would kill most species. We have this thing called a fever where our body deliberately raises its temperature to kill pathogens. We basically cook invaders to death from the inside. That sounds horrifying, someone muttered. It is effective, Jade countered with a grin. Oh, and we are adaptable. Put us in cold environments, we develop more body insulation. Put us in high altitude. Our blood develops more oxygen carriers. Expose us to new diseases. Our immune systems learn and remember. We are really hard to kill, and even harder to keep down. Commander Velroth stepped forward then, and the crowd parted respectfully. He stopped in front of Jade, and for a long moment, just looked at her. Then he did something I had never seen him do in 23 cycles of service. He bowed, a full formal Valorian bow, all four arms extended in a gesture of respect and apology. Lieutenant Harkin, he said, his voice carrying through the now silent commons. I owe you an apology. We categorized your species based on appearance rather than capability. We made assumptions rooted in ignorance. We treated you as fragile when you are anything but. This was unworthy of the Defense Corps, and unworthy of the respect you deserve. I am sorry. Jade stood, and returned a crisp human salute. Apology accepted, Commander. No harm done. Furthermore, Velroth continued, effective immediately, you are cleared for all training facilities without restriction. And I would like to request that you consider running advanced conditioning courses for our combat specialists. It seems we have much to learn from human training methods. Jade smiled, genuine and warm. I would be honored, sir. As the crowd dispersed and conversations resumed, I found myself standing next to Jade at the Commons window, looking out at the stars. You knew, I said quietly, from the beginning. You knew what we thought of you. Of course I knew, she replied. It was pretty obvious. And you said nothing. You let us underestimate you. She shrugged. Actions speak louder than words, instructor. I could have argued, explained, defended human capability all day long, or I could just show you. Sometimes the second option is more effective. I looked at her. This small, compact, devastatingly capable human. We almost made a terrible mistake. If there had been a real crisis, and we had left you behind, assumed you needed protection. But you did not, Jade said. You saw the truth. That is what matters. She was right, of course, but it made me think about all the other species we might be misjudging, all the other beings we categorize based on surface appearance rather than actual ability. Lesson learned, I said. Jade raised her water container in a mock toast. Never judge a species by its size, right? Right, I agreed. Especially humans. Especially humans. Because if we learned anything from Lieutenant Jade Harkin, it was this. They might come in small packages. They might look delicate. They might seem like they need protecting. But humans are survivors, hunters, warriors born from a world that tried everything to kill them and failed. And we had called them fragile. We would never make that mistake again.